Last week we learned how to manually create formulas as well as use the AutoSum button in Excel. This week we're going to continue practicing those skills and learn a little bit about how to apply number formats to the different numbers that we have in Excel. In front of us we have Widget Sales Report for 2010 and 2011. And if you notice, it's got our sales for January all the way through December. And the first thing that I'd like to do this sales report is to total the sales for 2010. And if you remember last week, we used the AutoSum button. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. It's in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And you'll see that it's going to put the formula equals sum, parentheses, and then it selects the range B2 to B14. But if you notice, it also included that 2010, which isn't part of the data that we want to have summed. So I'm going to click on cell B3, hold down my mouse, and pull it all the way down to B14 so that it only includes January through December of 2010. And when I see that it's just the way I want it to be, I'm going to hit the Enter key on my keyboard and it will add everything up. Similarly, I'd like to do the same thing for 2011. So I'm going to click that AutoSum button one more time. And again, it includes that 2011, so I'm going to change that range to get rid of it and hit the Enter key. And if we look at the sales for 2010 and 2011, we'll see that they've increased a little bit in 2011. So the next thing that I'd like to do is calculate the increase from 2010 to 2011. So I'm going to go ahead and click on cell D3. And the way that we calculate the increase is to subtract the 2010 number from the 2011 number. So the first thing that we always do when we're creating a formula is we hit the equal sign, and that's how Excel knows that we want to create a formula. And I'm going to type C3 minus B3 and hit the Enter key. So you can see that the sales increased in January of 2011 from 2010. They've increased 20. And we can always continue clicking on each one of these cells and doing the formulas one by one. But we learned last week that we can copy a formula, select the range, and paste it. And when I want to kind of get rid of those marching ants, I'm going to hit the Escape button on my keyboard. And we can see that most of the months we increased our sales, but in February they went down, and in May they went down. The next thing that I'd like to calculate is the percent increase. So I'm going to go ahead and click on cell E3, and the percent increase is going to be the amount of the increase, which is going to be D3, and I'm just going to click on the cell D3. I can always type it out like I did last time, but sometimes it's just easier to click on it. D3 divided by C3. And we can see our formula is right here. Hit the Enter key, and we can see that our sales in January increased 4% from 2010 to 2011. And again, I want to copy that formula down, so I'm going to hit, you can either hit Control-C on your keyboard or the copy button up here, copy, select the range, and you can hit Control-V on your keyboard, or you can hit the paste button. And I'm going to hit Escape to get rid of the marching ants. And so you can see that our sales increased in January 4%, but they dropped 1% in February. And kind of the nice thing that Excel does is that when there's a drop like that, that it will highlight, it will change the font color to red so that it'll really stand out. And last but not least, I want to calculate the average sales for 2010 and 2011. And I don't know if this is a really useful number, but I wanted to be able to show you guys how to use the AutoSum button again. So when I added it down here, when I calculated the total sales, I just clicked on the button. But there's also a drop down, and you can also calculate other things. And so I'm going to click on average. And so it puts equals average. And then again, it guesses. And I don't want to calculate, I don't want to average all of these numbers. I just want to average the sales numbers for January of 2010 and 2011. And so this is my formula, equals average of the range B3 to C3, and hit enter. So the average that we sold, 510. So again, let's copy. I pressed Control C on my keyboard, and I'm going to paste that formula all the way down. After adding all those calculations to our spreadsheet, I want to show you guys how to apply different number formats to the numbers. First and foremost, see we've got some big numbers down here at the bottom, and I'd like to do something really simple to them. I'd just like to add a comma. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come up to the numbers group up here at the very top in the Home tab. And adding a comma is as easy as just clicking on this button for comma style. And it's going to add a comma in here, and it's also going to give us some decimal places. Now I don't really want these decimal places right here. So we're going to go back up to the number group, and we're going to click on decrease decimal. Once, twice. I'm going to take off those decimal places. And I've got another number here I want to do the same thing. Again, click on the comma format, comma style, and reduce the decimal. If we look over here to the average of the total sales, which is kind of probably a silly number, but I want to click on that and decrease decimal again. I'll do the same for some of these other guys too, which we don't really need sort of the fractions. So I'm going to select non-adjacent, do a non-adjacent range. I'm going to click on the first one. Then I'm going to click on the Control button on my keyboard and click on all of these that have that first decimal place. And then I'm going to go back up to the number group, and I'm going to hit decrease decimal one more time. And it's going to simultaneously get rid of that decimal place with all of the cells that I have selected.